Good morning, everyone. The topic for today's discussion is transformation of sentence. The flow of my presentation is like this. First of all, we'll see what is transformation of sentence. Under the transformation of sentence, active voice and passive voice. So, what are the rules that involves when you're changing active voice to passive voice? So, these are the things we are going to see for today's class. So before that, I want to give a brief introduction about this transformation of sentence. So in English, we have different types of sentences. For example, simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and also we are using direct speech and indirect speech. So among these, we know very well about this active voice and passive voice. And what is the importance of this active voice and passive voice, and in which context we are using this active voice and passive voice. That is what we are going to learn in depth, and what are the rules that we should remember when we are changing active voice to passive voice. Okay, so first of all, what is active voice? So when you see this phrase active voice, it conveys that something is active. Okay, so here the verb speaks of its subject as acting. It is said to be in active voice. If you see the sentence, he wrote a letter, the subject he is active here. He is doing some activity, or he is doing some action, some work. He is involving himself in an action. So it's active. The verb speaks of its subject as acting, means doing something. Okay, the best example you can see here is he wrote a letter. Okay, so in the passive voice, the subject is passive, means the subject is not doing any activity, but something is done on the subject, or something is being acted upon, or having something done to it, having something done to the subject. That is called passive voice. And you see this definition, when this verb speaks of its subject as being acted upon or having something done to it, it is said to be in the passive voice. So the subject is passive in nature, so we are calling it as passive voice. Okay, so what is the major difference here? In the active voice, we are giving importance or supreme importance to the subject, so we are placing the subject first. And in the passive voice, the object is given supreme importance, something is done to the subject. So the passive voice, this object is given supreme importance. Okay, so that is one of the major differences that we can see in the passive and active sentences. And let us pass on to the rules for changing active voice into passive voice. Before that, what is the general form of active voice and passive voice? Okay, so as we have already seen, active voice subject is given much importance, so subject comes first. Subject plus verb plus object. That is a sentence pattern or general form of the sentence. And in the passive voice, object is given much importance. So object we are placing first, and object plus be form of the verb, and then subject will come. Okay, and there are three different rules that I want to mention here. Rule number 1 and 2, it says clearly about the replacement of subject and object. So three rules are applicable when you are changing not direct, active voice to passive voice. Okay, so first two rules says clearly about the changing the subject and object. Okay, so we have to replace the place of subject and object. So in the active voice, subject will come first, so that subject we have to bring it to the last. And in the passive voice, object will come first. Okay, so when you're replacing subject and object, okay, when you're changing active to passive voice, object will come first and subject will go to the last. Okay, that is what the rule for 1 and rule 2 says. What is that? The object of the active voice is changed into subject in the passive voice. And the second rule, the subject of the active voice is changed into object in the passive voice by using the word by. Okay, so the word by is very important in the passive voice. Okay, so after this replacement of subject and object, so what we have to do then? We have to add the be form of the verb. Okay, what is be form of the verb? So here I have given what is be form of the verb. You can see words such as am, is, are, was, were. So these are called be form of verbs. According to the subject, we have to use this auxiliary verb, that is be form of the verb. For I we are using am, for singular verb we are using is, and plural we are using are and were. Okay, and according to the tense also it differs. So we have to use the be form of the verb when we are changing active to passive voice. Okay, let us see different types of tenses. In English we know very well we have three major tenses, that is present tense, past tense and future tense. Okay, so for this session we are going to focus only on present tense. Under present tense we have four tenses: simple present, present continuous, present perfect and present perfect continuous. So among these three, uh, first three tenses that we are applicable to change active to passive. Okay, simple present, simple present continuous tense and present perfect tense. And present perfect continuous tense, there is no change in that when you are changing active to passive. Okay, so we'll see one by one. First of all, simple present tense, a very simple sentence, that is subject, verb and object. If you see this sentence, he writes a letter, he writes a letter, it is in simple present tense. Okay, so when you are changing this simple present tense into active to passive, what are the changes that we have to see? That is what it is given here. So when you are changing to active to passive, what is the form of the sentence? Subject plus am, is, are plus past participle. Okay, so first we have to apply the change of subject and object, or replacement of subject and object. So when you are replacing the subject he and the object letter, so how it will come? So letter will come to the first and the subject he will come to the last. Okay, so a letter. Okay, and when you have to see the tense here, writes is a present tense, so according to that you have to change the tense. Okay, so this writes present tense will be the suitable or auxiliary verb or suitable form of the be form of the verb is. Okay, because according to the subject, here subject is singular, so we are using is. Okay, suppose if it is a plural, you have to use the plural verb, and the tense it is given here is present tense, so we should not change the tense. The present tense should be in the present tense only. We should not change present into past and future. Okay, so if it is present, you should use the present form of the auxiliary verb only, that is be form of the verb. So is the present form, so we are using is. A letter is. And written, what is this written? It is the past participle. Okay, you three columns you know very well, present, past and past participle, the three columns that we use to learn. For example, write, wrote, written. Write, wrote, written. The third column is past participle, so that past participle we have to use here. A letter is written by him. So always when you are changing active to passive, we should use the word by in the passive voice, by. Okay, him. So how it comes here? The subject he, it is changed into him. The possessive form of he we have to use here. Okay, so a letter is written by him. So this is how you have to change the present tense. This is simple present tense, and like this same we have to change. We can change for present continuous and present perfect. Okay, so the only difference is the verb that we are using. For present continuous, it should be in the continuous form, and for all the present continuous tense we have to add the word being. Okay, when you are changing active to passive, we have to add the word being along with the auxiliary verb. And for the perfect tense, okay, the only difference is we have to use this have or have, has or have. For the present tense, we have to add this have or has plus been. For perfect tense, we have to add this been. That is the only difference in perfect tense. Okay, thank you.